Welcome to the island. I am your host, Alvis Samuel, and today I have a little bit of news for everybody. And I need everybody to understand this news and why it hasn't been concluded. Why is this investigation? It's been over a month, and this investigation is still ongoing, and they have no clue where it's at. We'll get to it right after this. First, let's go ahead and everybody go to rss.com /podcast the island. That way you can catch up on my previous episodes and stay in cahoots with me. You can also find me on Twitter at AS the island. Yes, that's AS the island on Twitter. You can communicate with me also on there and, you know, just say hello, whatever you want to do. Now let's go ahead and get into this. It's something that I haven't heard on any mainstream at all. Actually, from anybody. So, what am I talking about? I am talking about the 61,000 pounds of a chemical explosive. 61,000 pounds went missing off a rail yard from a train that was going from Wyoming to California. The investigation says it just completely disappeared. No one knows where this chemical is. What is this chemical? This chemical is ammonium nitrate. This is used as a piece to completely detonate a bomb, a bunch of explosive. It's also used in fertilizer, but we also know that you can use fertilizer to blow crap up. So 61,000 pounds, over 61,000 pounds of this stuff went completely missing. And I find this out a couple of days ago. Now, did it happen a couple of days ago? No. Right now we are in the month of May. This happened in April, actually April 3rd. And no one has been mentioning this at all. A train going from Wyoming to California goes missing. Not the whole train, but the chemicals on the train. And this chemical is very highly explosive and it's gone missing. Now, what does this have to do with what is going on today? Because they find this out in California. Apparently, when the train got to the destination, they realized it's not on there. So, what does all of this have to do with what is going on this month? Well, as everybody has heard in my previous episodes, I have been talking about here and there in previous episodes, follow the breadcrumbs. Follow the little crumbs that are being spread out there. And so I'm going to take everybody on this journey on this episode to show you what might actually be happening if you are connecting these dots. So, in April, a train that's carrying explosives, 61,000 pounds of explosives, goes missing. The chemical goes missing off of this train. Also, we heard about, what was it, Title 42 is null and void now. And before that's even happening, down at the border, before Title 42 went completely just poof out of the air because they didn't want to renew it at all. That's our government. There's been buses, and we've all seen them all over the mainstream media. There's been buses in the middle of the night. Joe Biden's been basically shipping illegal immigrants all over the country. Not just the Biden administration, but also, Greg Abbott from Texas, the governor of Texas. Also, the governor from Florida has been doing it. That's Ron DeSantis, and other governors across the southern border that's dealing with an immigration problem. They just been shipping people all over the nation, thousands to even hundreds of thousands. Yes, hundreds of thousands have been being shipped all over the nation. And if you can catch some of these clips and videos online or even on the main, because they do show this part on the mainstream news, a lot of these people aren't little children. They're not women. A lot of these people are fighting aged males from, you guessed it, not Mexico, but from other countries. And they don't want people to see this part. Yes, some of them been from Russia, some of them been from China, some of them been from anywhere, any country in South America, even out of Africa. These people have been bust all across the nation. Now, still following these breadcrumbs, since this has been happening, we've had rail trains being blown up, and now we have chemicals that are used in explosives now completely missing. And these people are all over this nation waiting on something. Now, some of you listening might say, yes, I'm doing a lot of speculation, but I'm not. What I'm doing is following these breadcrumbs. Now, let's keep following these breadcrumbs across the ocean to Ukraine and this war going on in Ukraine between Ukraine and Russia. What does this have to do with anything? Let me tell you what this has to do. It has to deal with a lot because, as we all know, Putin has been basically twiddling his fingers, kind of talking a big game, but not really. And he's basically only been sending out one unit, the Wagner, I think it's the Wagner unit. They're doing all the fighting in this war that Russia is doing against Ukraine. Russia hasn't done basically anything else. And the Wagner, I think it's the Wagner group. Sorry if I kept saying it's the Wagner group. The Wagner group has been going all around Ukraine and they've been basically winning this war. They've lost a few battles, but they've been winning the war all across Ukraine. And we've been hearing here and there that we're waiting for a counter offense attack or whatever, all these other attacks, and nothing's been happening. It's been the might of all of Ukraine being backed by NATO and the United States against the Wagner group only of Russia. And everybody else, they've been putting pieces in place. And then they've been waiting and just sitting there, just waiting and sitting, waiting for the word. The word of what? This word is going to be a specific attack done all at once. Now, what does that have to do with what's in the United States? Because you might think that it has nothing to do with the United States. I mean, this is on the other side of an ocean. Well, can you cut the head off of the snake? If you can, and you can do it without getting bit, man. And I mean with one swing of a sword. Can you do it with one swing of a knife? Can you do it? And it's not a small snake. This snake is deadly. One little prick of its fang can kill you. So you have to be very cautious, very calculated in swinging your sword to chop the head off of this snake. But you have to do it in one swing, and you got to do it all at once. So I've been following these breadcrumbs to find out what's really going on. And I do believe this is exactly what's going on. We do have Russian nationalists, people from the Russian military inside the United States as we speak right now. Not just Russian nationalists and Russian military, but we also have Chinese nationalists and Chinese military men inside the United States right now as I speak. You can actually look this up because not too long ago, a couple of weeks, I want to say it was 2 weeks ago today, they arrested 62 Chinese nationalists who came across the border, the southern border inside the United States, and they arrested them. But that's just 62. So I'm pretty positive more has made it through the border. They got through here. So these guys are everywhere. Not just to mention, we also have, CCP police stations, that's China Communist Party police stations in our own country. Most notably, the ones in New York City. The ones in New York, the state of New York, not just the city of New York, but the state of New York. We know that they are there. And there's more all across the country, too. And we don't hear much about them. Keep following these breadcrumbs. We also know a while back ago, not that long ago, there was the Chinese balloon that went across the whole nation. They said it went through Montana, but if it went through Montana, it had to also cross what? Wyoming. Put this stuff together, and you might find out that not just Russia, but China also there. They are coming up with these battles. China's about to, and we can all go on the side saying China will invade Taiwan. We know this is going to happen. Russia is already invading Ukraine. And as we are depleting our own military and showing our hands on these weapons, it will be a one in all attack on the soil of the United States. Small ones have been going off here and there. And I've said this, I do believe the United States has been being under attack, has been under attack multiple times this year. Small little blowups here and there, small in comparison to what's been going on in other parts of the world. So I need people to truly understand this. And I keep saying, I'm going to keep saying, follow these breadcrumbs because it's going to be a coordinated attack all at once. And I guarantee you it's going to be used, these chemical explosives that they just vanished going from Wyoming to California. This is part of it. It will be used. This is what Putin is waiting on. This is what probably China is also waiting on. They are waiting on this to get everything situated, get everything put together, waiting on a day of calmness across the entire nation, getting things in place, getting their people through the border. And then once they have it all in place, then they say fire. And all at once, you are going to see explosions. I don't mean small explosions. I don't mean little missiles. I mean massive explosions. Nuclear explosions all across the country, all at once, inside the United States of America. You're going to see it. And then at the same time, you're going to see nuclear explosions happening everywhere in Ukraine. And then at the same time, you're going to see a massive battle happen down in Taiwan. And it will cut the head off of the snake. And everybody will look and marvel and wonder to themselves, how did this happen? It happened because we had an incompetent government who allowed the border to be erased, to allow people to flood the border, some good, some not so good, but the not so good will take over. And this will be a monumental disaster all across the United States of America. And it's going to happen all at once. Within an hour of everything, it will explode. And this nation, this mighty, proud nation of the United States of America, will be brought not just to its knees, but to complete rubble. And we will wonder to ourselves, how did this happen? Because of our incompetence, because of our disgusting nature. Now, let me keep this going, because this type of prophecy, and yes, I'm going to say prophecy, it's actually not from me. I'm just following the dots. I'm just, connecting the dots. I'm just following the breadcrumbs. However, this prophecy actually comes out of your own Bible if you read it yourself. Now, I get it. Some of you might say, there are some people out there who will say, "Oh, that's not the United States." But on the contrary, are you sure? Because we can go ahead and look at all of this right now. Actually, let's do that. Thus says the Lord, behold, I will raise up against Babylon, against those who dwell in Leb Kamai, a destroying wind, and I will send winnowers to Babylon, who shall winnow her and empty her land for the day of doom. They shall be against her all around. Against her let the archer bend his bow, and lift himself up against her in his armor. Do not spare her young men, utterly destroy all her army. Thus the slain shall fall in the land of the Chaldeans, and those thrust through in her streets. For Israel is not forsaken, nor Judah by his God, the Lord of hosts, though their land was filled with sin against the Holy One of Israel. Flee from the midst of Babylon, and every one save his life. Do not be cut off in her iniquity, for this is the time of the Lord's vengeance. He shall recompense her. Babylon was a golden cup in the Lord's hand, that made all the earth drunk. The nations drank her wine, therefore the nations are deranged. That was Jeremiah, the book of Jeremiah in the Bible, chapter 51, 1 through 7. Again, that's verses 1 through 7 in chapter 51 in the book of Jeremiah. Now, let's try to go through this and understand some of this. So, it's talking about the winnowers going into this land, the land of Babylon. Now, let's take that to what's going on down at the border, the southern border of the United States. There are people, like I said, there's a bunch of nationalists, Russian nationalists, Chinese nationalists, nationalists from a bunch of other countries that aren't even part of Mexico. They're coming through the border. Like I said, they are waiting on the call from Putin, and they are waiting on the call from President Xi of China. They are waiting for them to give them the go ahead. And when they get that go ahead, they are going to destroy everything that they can touch. And yes, like I said, the 61,000 pounds of chemical explosives is going to be part of that. And it's going to help them blow things up all around the country. So now we understand the winnowers coming through the borders into Babylon, which is the United States. Now let's go back up again to Leb Kamai. What does that mean? Well, that means, I believe in Hebrew, that means ones who lifted up their heart against God. What is the United States doing right now in the country? In this country of the United States of America, we are passing legislation. We are, as a people, lifting up our proud hearts against God and his laws, saying we know better. We know how to rule. Our rule is better than God's rule. And then it says that God has not forsaken his own, as in Israel and Judah. What is something that has happened in the past, very recently happened in the past, that Israel, the actual country of Israel, has condemned the United States of doing? Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu came out and said, when Israel was going through all these protests and riots and human rights activism and all this stuff, and it was causing problems in the state of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu came out. He is the prime minister of Israel. He came out and said, It is the United States that is stirring this pot. They are putting people in our country to stir this pot to make everyone restless. And I do remember I had an episode talking about this. And I said if he is right and the United States is doing this stuff, it will not go unnoticed by God, and he will judge the United States for doing this. Now, all of a sudden, our borders are basically no more, and we have people now infiltrating inside the United States, waiting. We have to keep this, and we have to know this stuff. The Bible is the truth, and it is trying to tell us this stuff. Not just tell us something, but tell us what is really going to happen and then what is really going on. We have to understand all of this, because if not, then we will be destroyed with it, because it says flee. The Bible in these 7 verses says flee out of here, out of Babylon. Go somewhere safe, in other words. Find a safe spot. There's a lot of people in the United States who just can't leave the country. But that doesn't mean there's not a safe spot in the country, or maybe close somewhere around, because all you have to do is sit down and pray, and you will find out. God will give you that answer, where to go when all of this stuff is popping off. And honestly, some people are actually on their way moving already out of certain areas in the country. Do you think this is by chance? Or are people getting this essence that they have to get out of certain areas, certain states, certain cities, and they have to go to a safe haven right now? This stuff is not by chance. And you have to understand what is going on. Follow these breadcrumbs down closer to the end of what I read. This is all verse 7. In short, the United States has been going all around the world. All around the world. Spreading something that is highly, highly immoral. And very against the word of God and obviously God's word. In his word, God calls this an abomination. And we, the United States, have been going around the entire world under the name of human rights, trying to spread homosexuality and transgenderism all around the world. We even have people at the highest levels in our government acting in this manner. Do you think that God is going to let this go? I think not. We have made the world, and I mean the entire world, completely deranged, using the word the Bible says in that verse 7. We've made everybody go completely deranged, especially even in our own country. And we think we will not be punished for this? Do you think this nation will not be punished? Do you think that our actions will go unnoticed by God? Ask yourself that question. Shall I keep reading on in this chapter? I think I should, and I will. Babylon has suddenly fallen and been destroyed. Well for her. Take balm for her pain. Perhaps she may be healed. We would have healed Babylon, but she is not healed. Forsake her, and let us go, everyone, to his own country. For her judgment reaches to the heaven and is lifted up to the skies. The Lord has revealed our righteousness. Come and let us declare in Zion the work of the Lord our God. Make the arrows bright. Gather the shields. The Lord has raised up the spirit of the kings of Medes. For his plan is against Babylon to destroy it, because it is the vengeance of the Lord. The vengeance for his temple. Set up the standard on the walls of Babylon. Make the guard strong, set up the watchmen, prepare the ambushes, for the Lord has both devised and done what he spoke against the inhabitants of Babylon. O you who dwell by many waters, abundant in treasure, your end has come. The measure of our covetousness, the Lord of hosts has sworn by himself. Surely I will fill you with men as with locusts, and they shall lift up a shout against you. He has made the earth by his power. He has established the world by his wisdom and stretched out the heaven by his understanding. That was, again, Jeremiah 51, verses 8 through 15. So let's go back and look at a little bit of this, just a little bit. First off, we got to notice the kings of Medes. What is that? That is the southern part of Russia, Kazakhstan, Afghanistan, Iran, Turkey, Uzbekistan. Those are those countries. Basically, Turkey, all of Iran, Afghanistan, and the southern part of Russia. They are going to come together to make this happen, to make Babylon fall, to make the United States fall. And we can see this happening literally right now with the rumor that the United States and its allies of NATO, even though Turkey's part of that, but for some reason they tried to make an attack over last weekend on a Turkish pipeline. It is a pipeline of natural gas so Turkey can have some energy from Russia to Turkey. It was under attack. It was a failed attack, but it was under attack. And a lot of people are speculating that this can easily make Turkey leave NATO and just team up with Russia. We already know that Russia and Iran, they are already buddies. They've already teamed up. Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, yeah, they are also buddies with Russia. Afghanistan, they team up all the time with Iran. You can see this coalition already happening right now as we speak. The only piece that they are missing is Turkey, and that's it. But once Turkey leaves NATO, they will join with Russia. And when they all get together, they are going to get together and come up with a plan, which they've already been doing. I've already gave you the breadcrumbs to that plan, to take the United States down. You have to know this stuff. You have to know what is going on around you. If you keep going down these verses in the book of Jeremiah, you will see that God will be using these nations, like I said, to bring down the United States, because he has judged the United States and found the United States guilty of its crime of immorality and spreading that immorality all around the world, of violence and spreading that violence all around the world. You will understand this just by reading these few verses in this chapter. This is chapter 51, verses 1 all the way down to 15 in the book of Jeremiah. There is going to be an ambush inside of the city of Babylon, inside of the country of the United States. There will be an ambush waiting for the entire country. How will there be an ambush unless you get your people inside this nation? Again, this is another reference down to our borders completely being overrun. And with this ambush, there will be an overrunning, overwhelming push of men from these other countries. As I said, these are men. I've already said this. These are men, young men of fighting age, to join their military for their country. These are these men. And not only that, it mentions locusts. Locust means famine in this sense. It's going to be a time where the food It's going to be hard coming, hard press. So the food will be going down, and we can already see that right now. And we already see the men coming through our borders. So, what does verse 15 in chapter 51 means? He has made the earth by his power. He has established the world by his wisdom and stretched out the heaven by his understanding. What does that mean? It means that he is in everything. Everything that is going on, he already knows. He's already seen it and knows how to deal with it. He has seen from the beginning of time how the United States will turn its back on God, and he knows how he's going to have to judge this nation. Nothing is going to surprise God. And with his wisdom and his power, he's going to use these enemies to take down the United States. There will be crying, there will be yelling, there will be screaming, there's going to be death, and it's going to be done with fire. And people do not understand this judgment that is about to hit. It's already been judged. This has been already judged because the sin and the iniquities of this nation has already been seen. So the judgment has already been made. I am not telling you all of this to scare you, to freak you out. And I know that sounds very cliche, but it's the truth. Why am I telling you this? So you know what is about to come, so you can, like I've always said in every single episode, prepare yourselves so you are not harmed in this. What the United States has done throughout the entire world will be repaid double inside its own borders. We've dropped throughout time 2 nuclear bombs, 2 atomic bombs on Japan. We will have twice that destruction within our own nation, all at once, within an amount of, I believe it was 3 days. Nagasaki and Hiroshima were completely flattened. It will happen in the United States. We've caused riots, wars, protests all around the world. We infiltrated countries, went over their own borders, and murdered millions of people all around the world. It will be repaid to the United States. We've introduced our immoral selves to the entire world and forced it on them to make them do the same thing that we are doing. We've perverted justice. We've gone around corrupting governments, toppling them over, murdering their kings and their dictators and their presidents and whoever that was in that government for no reason, just because we just didn't like them for whatever reason. We've done it. It will be repaid to this country, because instead of using our strength and the blessing that God has given this country for his glory, we have turned against him, and we have been using our strength and what we've been blessed with for our own selfishness. So we may become more rich, more wealthy, more prosperous than any other nation, and it just worked up until this point. The house of cards is about to fall, and it's going to fall on top of everybody inside. These are not my words. These are other people's words, and this is the words that are out of the Bible itself. You can believe it or not. It's your choice. It's not mine. It's your choice. I've already made it up for myself. I do believe it 100%. Full-heartedly, I've already made that up in my mind. This is the truth, and all I can do is be an echo chamber of the truth on a time when the United States will be seemingly at rest, at peace, when we think we can't be touched, and we've already been thinking that since basically the Civil War. It will happen. In one day, In an hour, everything will go up in flames. Do not be caught off guard at all. Prepare not just yourself, but also your family and your heart. Know for certain that you are safe. Your soul is safe, your spirit is safe, and you yourself, your physical body is safe too. Find a church, not just any church, but find a biblical, sound doctrine church that only says what's in the Bible. Find that church. And if you are not saved, get saved through that church. Know that Jesus died for your sins. Know that he rose again on the third day, and believe it and confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord. Know and confess that he sits on the right hand of the Father in heaven right now, judging everybody and all the nations. They've been judged, and he's all found them all guilty. And those who will be saved are those who believe on him and confess their sins to him. He is also the high priest. Do this, I beg you. I can only do that. I've done it myself. Know that judgment is coming to this nation, and prepare yourselves. Thank you again for listening to the Island Podcast. I'm your host, Alvis Samuel, and please go to rss.com/podcast/the island and catch up on previous episodes. Go ahead and find me on Twitter if you want to chat with me. Go ahead and chat with me on Twitter at ASTheIsland. I am there. I will answer as fast as I can. I'm not going to say it's going to be immediately, but I will answer you as fast as I can. I also have a Rumble page. Yes, I am on Rumble, where you can actually see my face, where I put out small clips here and there. And on Rumble, you can find me at A3S2 The Island. Again, that's A3S2 The Island, where I do small clips, and that's about it. I like to just throw out little nuggets for the Island Podcast. So go check it all out, and it may or may not benefit you. I don't know. It's all up to you. But again, I am your host, Alvis Samuel, and thank you for listening to the Island Podcast.